Hello, everybody. Today we are opening up a pack of 1987 tops. We're looking for Bo Jackson, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire. See what we can get out of here. We'll also do a deep dive on one of these people in this pack, our famous deep dive. So there's the gum. Not going to eat it. Not an idiot. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, Lance Parrish. Lance Parrish. That's a nice one. He should be in the Hall of Fame. We got Carl Willis, Mike Morgan, Wayne Dan Petrie Dish. We got Todd Worrell, Ed Cora, Jerry Reed, Frank Pastore, Rafael Santana, Rick Mahler, Jimmy Key. We'll put up Jimmy Key. We'll do Chris Welch, Reed Nichols, Brian Smith, Jeff Dedman, Mike Davis, and Mike is the last one in the pack. All right, well, Lance Parrish. Look at the stats, as we always say. Time for a deep dive into Lance Parrish. Let's do the little doodle-doodle, and here's a song. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive on Lance Parrish. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive. Just look at those stats. Okay, well, that was a weird song. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive. Man. Oh my, cut it out. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive. It's time for a deep dive on Lance Parrish. Lance Parrish. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. It was a weird song. No, it wasn't, Rob. Tell me why it was me. I'm not going to argue with you. But we are the same person, and we should think the exact same thing. I know we're the same person, and this is just silly. Let's move on. Okay, folks, let's take a moment to consider the story of Lance Parrish, a man whose career numbers and leadership define what it means to be one of the greats, yet his name is missing from the halls of Cooperstown. Lance Parrish's career spanned 19 seasons, during which he established himself as one of the most complete catchers in baseball history. He hit 324 home runs, which is just a sign of how much power he had behind the plate. So just think about that. He hit as many home runs as Hall of Famer Gary Carter, and is tied for 7th all-time among catchers for home runs. His slugging over the wall is on par with a lot of the legends in the position. Johnny Bench, 389 home runs. Carlton Fisk, 376. Yogi Berra, 358. He's just a handful away from all of those. He also just didn't hit home runs. He also did it at a position where offense is often a luxury, making it even more remarkable of how many home runs he hit. Over his career, Parrish drove in 1,070 RBIs, which compares favorably to many Hall of Famers catchers. He was a run producer, and he often delivered in clutch situation. If you look at peers, Fisk, 1,330 RBIs, Carter, 1,200 RBIs, both a little bit more than Parrish, but Parrish had a few less seasons. And Parrish is also light years ahead of other Hall of Famers like Roy Campanella, who only had 856 RBIs compared to Parrish's 1,070, or Mickey Cochran, 832 RBIs. Now, what's important to note here is that Parrish played in an era when offensive production from catchers wasn't pronounced as much as it is today. Yet, he stood out as an amazing catcher. Parrish was also more than just a power hitter. He was a durable catcher, logging 1,818 games as catcher, which places him 6th all-time at the position. Catching is one of the most grueling jobs in sports, and it tests not just skill, but resilience. Carlton Fisk, Bob Boone, Ivan Rodriguez are often celebrated for their longevity, but Parish deserves to be in that same conversation. He played nearly 2 decades in that role, and he is one of the most talented players. Then there's his defense. Parish won 3 Gold Gloves during his career and was one of the best at shutting down the running game. He threw out 39% of attempted base stealers. 39%. That's above what league average was during his era. Compare that to Gary Carter, Carlton Fisk, who were also hovered around that mark. So he is comparable to the greats. Parish was also steady presence behind the plate, managing pitches and controlling the game with skill and confidence. Now let's speak about postseason. 1984 Detroit Tigers, one of the most dominant teams in baseball history, and Parish was a cornerstone of that World Series winning team. Some of the critics will say, well, he hit 252. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. All right, 252. Well, let's look at Gary Carter, 262. Carlton Fisk, 269. They weren't hitting for average either. Come on. Catchers are judged by their total contributions to the game, their power, their defense, their leadership, and also their ability to handle a pitching staff. And Parish excelled in every one of those areas. To truly understand his case for the Hall of Fame, let's compare him to another catcher who waited far too long for his place in the Hall of Fame, Ted Simmons. Ted Simmons was finally inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2020, long after his playing days had ended. His case rested on his hitting prowess and his overall contributions to the game, and it's worth looking at how these two measure up with each other. Ted Simmons played 21 seasons and had 2,472 hits. That's in 21 seasons. Lance Parrish, 19 seasons, so 3 less seasons, 2,107 hits. So pretty much right on par. If he had played that extra few seasons, he would have had the same number of hits. Looking at home runs, 324 for Lance Parrish, 248 for Simmons, a full 100 less. RBIs, 1070 versus 1389, right with each other. Batting average, 285 for Simmons, 252 for Lance Parrish. And here's the last one. Lance Parrish, 1,800 games as catcher. Simmons, 1,700. He didn't play as many games as catcher. If you look at it at first glance, Simmons has the edge in hits, RBIs, and batting average, which is why he's considered one of the finest hitting catchers of his era, but Parrish is way past him in home runs. 324, 248. While they both brought different strengths to the plate, they're very similar in being valuable to the team. So why isn't Lance Parrish in the Hall of Fame? Perhaps it's because he spent all his time in Detroit, a city that, despite its rich baseball history, often flies underneath the radar. Maybe it's because he wasn't the loudest or flashiest player, instead letting his game do the talking instead of himself. Look at that, we got Gumstain Parish. But, you know, Cooperstown isn't all about glitz and glamour. It's about the impact on the game, and Lance Parrish certainly had an impact on the game. Think about it. He hit more home runs than Roy Campanella, had more RBIs than Mickey Cochran, played more games than Yogi Berra, and was a championship winning leader on one of the greatest teams of the 80s. What more do you need to see to be in the Hall of Fame? The Hall of Fame is supposed to tell the story of baseball. And you can't tell that story without amazing catchers like Lance Parrish. His plaque is overdue. It's time to give Lance Parrish the recognition he deserves. Just look at the stats. Hit like and subscribe. Rob Opens Wax is over now, but you can hit like and subscribe.